What is up? And welcome to the middle card. My name is Lloyd. Basically, these are my takes on the world of professional wrestling, whether it be stories, matches, events, just everything in the comings and goings of the world of professional wrestling. So let's get into it. So we just had a barn burner of a match between Hangman Adam Page and Bryan Danielson. I thought it was a great match with a great story because it was like a two-part series going from the first match into the second. So basically, after the first match, which was an hour-long draw, where Bryan Danielson pretty much dominates, they call it 70% of the match versus 30% to Hangman. So Bryan Danielson comes in with the idea that if I do the exact same thing that I did last time, at best, I'll win and I'll make Hangman tap out. At worst, now there are these judges in play and they're going to see that I out-wrestled him and I'm going to be the world champion no matter what. So he was banking on doing the exact same thing in order to get the exact same result at worst. And at best, he's going to end up the world heavyweight champion. Now, why I like the story is because he didn't bank on the idea that, well, Hangman Adam Page, who he has no respect for, is evolving. So from Hangman's point of view is, hey, you drugged me out for an hour. I was able to last. So you know what? I'm at least as good as you, or I might be just a little bit better. Maybe on that one night, but just a little bit better. And so that's pretty much how it played out. I think what the turning point of the match was when, so in the first match, Adam Page was bleeding. It happens a lot with Hangman Adam Page, so he was bleeding. In this match, they were both bleeding. So first it was Hangman, and we're used to seeing Hangman bleed, and then all of a sudden, Bryan Danielson bleeds. At one of the turning points, it was when, I think it was when they did the reverse spot where in the first match, they were by the buckle on the outside of the ring. Danielson starts pulling Page repeatedly into the buckle. Well, this time, because Hangman's evolving, he reverses that spot and starts pulling him in. And I think it was shortly after. Maybe there was like a headbutt or something like that in between. But then Danielson starts bleeding. And so why I like that is because whenever you have like wrestling is simulated combat, whenever you have like a boxing match or an MMA match and somebody starts to bleed, there's two responses. Either they fire up, okay, and they're just they fire up, they're used to it, adrenaline rush starts going, and then they start to perform beyond expectations, or at worst, they perform the same. The second reaction is they panic, they rush things, they start doing things that they normally wouldn't do. And so what I like about it is, I think what the story here was, now that Danielson starts to bleed, which he may or may not be accustomed to, I'll have to go back and take a look at his other matches, but his response to bleeding was different than Page's. And so basically, he starts to rush things. He starts to make mistakes. He starts to become fatigued. And that's Page dragging Danielson into deep waters. And then by the end, he was able to win the match. So that's what I appreciated about it. I liked and I disliked the finish. So basically, Danielson hits the lapel lock. Page starts to reverse it. Then Danielson turns it into a triangle choke. Starts hitting elbows. Then Hangman starts to turn that into a power bomb. Danielson hooks the leg so that basically Page doesn't have the leverage in order to pull him all the way up. They fall down. Danielson pulls it into a leg lock, or normally he would go for the heel hook. Then Page starts to kick Danielson in the head, which could be similar to like an up kick, basically. So if you were on the ground in an MMA fight and your back is on the ground and somebody's standing above you, you would start kicking upward because their face is normally exposed. Well, in this case, Page just starts kicking him towards the face. Danielson lets go, turns over into a stomach where normally he should be covering up. Page just starts taking him, hooking him, boom, hook, hook, hook. From behind, then he proceeds to go to the buckshot. I like the fact that he turned back around and then went for a back suplex, belly to back suplex, or I think they called it a suplex driver. At the point in time, hits the buckshot, wins decisively. I liked it. I liked the fact that it seemed like Danielson was out on his feet to a degree. I guess that's the best finish that's the finish that we deserve for a TV match. I would have liked something along the lines of Page. I would have liked to see one more burst out of Danielson. So basically, what you have is Page goes for the buckshot. Danielson goes and he blocks it because he's been working on his arm the entire time. You know, Page goes back and he's like in pain and whatnot. And then he just like gets that wide-eyed look in his eyes and just clotheslines him one more time and then hit the pin. But that's just me nitpicking. Overall, it was a great match. So now the question becomes, where do we go from here? Because Revolution is in March, and we don't really have any established contenders. It's a new year. All the records are starting from zero. You probably have to go based off of last year's record. But if I'm looking at it, if Danielson is still heel, there's really only 2 matches that I can think of that I would put out in order to attract people to want to see that match and start building those programs. The first is Jon Moxley, because where we were headed before was basically the Moxley match before he checked himself into rehab. When Moxley comes back, Moxley was headed in a heel direction, but when he comes back, he's going to be cheered like a babyface. So they're probably going to have to roll with that, keep Danielson heel, and then we can have that match at Revolution like we were supposed to get prior to that in the Eliminator Finals. The other match that I see, I was looking up and down the card, and there's not a lot of baby faces that you could put with Danielson. So why not Jay Lethal? I think Jay Lethal at this point in time, he's just got to AEW, still getting his feet wet and whatnot. But this is the type of program that can catapult him and put him to where he needs to be on the card. So that's pretty much what I would like to see as far as that goes. As far as Hangman goes, I would like to see Miro, but Miro just had that loss to Danielson, so he needs to be reestablished. If you want to continue with the same program that you had before, there was Moxley, so you could do that. Malachi Black. I mean, I think at any point in time you could pretty much insert Malachi Black into the picture. I think he only has maybe 1 loss overall. Maybe there's some sort of tag team match or 8-man tag match where he has a loss, but beyond that, he doesn't really have any losses. So he could be inserted, and this could be built up until March. And then lastly, Adam Cole. Why not? If you're gonna keep pushing this whole Elite versus, I think the name that's been floated around is Paragon. Well, Elite versus Undisputed, then if Kenny's ready to come back, or just about ready to come back, well, you can push this story along, and then have at the center of it be the World Heavyweight title with Hangman and Adam Cole, and then you could just progress this storyline of the Elite versus the Undisputed, where Adam Cole's under the assumption, well, let me go and win the World Heavyweight title, and then I'm going to be in charge, and this causes a division, and then we get the matches, or the series of matches that we've all been waiting for. So that's just building along with the story. But other than that, great match. Excited to see where it goes starting this Wednesday or a couple of weeks from now, as we got to keep the ball rolling. So that's been the middle card. Thanks for watching, and talk to you soon.